Hey everybody, my name is Tyler.
And my name's Donna, and we're two New Jersey Watershed Ambassadors.
Our goal as ambassadors is to promote watershed stewardship. We do this through education, direct community involvement such as volunteering at trash cleanups, tree and dune grass plantings, osprey nest maintenance, and winter seal watch. We also monitor stream health through the collection of macroinvertebrates, which are indicator species of pollution in a stream.
Today we're here to show you guys our EnviroScape model, which is a model of a watershed and how point source and non-point source pollution affects our local waterways.
There are 20 watershed management areas in the state of New Jersey, and they're all connected to the Atlantic Ocean.
Now I know you guys are probably wondering what a watershed is exactly. And now a watershed is a common area of land where all of the water drains into one common body of water. Now think about when you're at home and you hear the raindrops hitting the roof of your house. Where do you think that water's going? Eventually, on its journey through our watershed, the water finds its way into streams like this and eventually out into the ocean. All of the rainfall and snowmelt within a watershed utilizes gravity to make its way into ground, streams, rivers, reservoirs, and bays. Depending on where you live, it may flow into one of the many different streams or directly into the Passaic or Hackensack rivers. During this process, the runoff gathers pollutants from the land and introduces them to these waterways.
There are two types of water pollutions that we can find in our watershed. The first is non-point source, which is a pollution that comes from many different locations, such as litter on the street, and gets carried by stormwater runoff. The second is point source pollution, which is a type of pollution that comes from a specific place, such as pipes at a factory. Now let's take a look at our EnviroScape model, which is a representation of a watershed. Starting up here at the top, we have a factory, a forest, a small golf course, a construction site, residential area with some homes, cars on the road, a sewage treatment plant, two streams. We have a farm and farm animals, and it all empties out into our common body of water right here.
Now, our EnviroScape model is looking pretty clean. There's no pollution just yet. What I want to show you guys is how water pollution affects our watershed. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use different props to represent the different types of pollution in our watershed. One of the main types of non-point source pollution that's found within a watershed is litter and trash. Today I'm going to use this as an example to show you where litter and trash might accumulate within a watershed. Pretty much be anywhere in our model here. Single-use plastics, all on the road. People hiking in the woods drop down some of their trash on accident or on purpose, unfortunately. Around the houses, garbage cans blow over during a windy day out into the street here. Factories, you have people outside eating their lunch and just throwing out their garbage into the parking lot, all litter. A little more on the road. Same thing on a farm. Some people discard their stuff on accident or on purpose. And a construction site. Some of their litter and trash ends up on the side of their site. And then here at the golf course, and bottles end up on the fairway. So there we have litter and trash scattered about. Another type of non-point source pollution I want to share with you guys today is oil from old cars and factory equipment. So I'm going to use this green dye to show you an example here. Here we have a very old van that's being towed away, and what had happened was his oil pan cracked and the seal broke, and so for months he was driving while dripping oil all along the road here. Took this route last week. This old tractor over here had an oil leak without knowing it all over the field. This car here is new, gets checked out, so no oil is leaking from that car there. Construction sites, a little bit of diesel fuel leaking out of his car here, this work truck here, onto the work site. So during winter weather events, the city likes to drop salt on the road to prevent ice from forming and for our safety. However, what they do with the road salt, they may put too much of it down along the road. So they put all this excess salt on the roads and it melts the ice, but as it melts the ice, the snow captures that salt, and once they plow it, all the salt is contained in the snow along the side of the road and the stream banks there.
Animal waste is another type of non-point source pollution we might find within our watershed. Our pets like dogs and our farm animals like cows and pigs are not native to New Jersey, and their poop can actually be harmful to our environment. We're going to use chocolate sprinkles here to represent where we might find dog poop around our houses, where people are hiking in the forest, and also on our farm. Fertilizers and pesticides are two types of chemicals that people use that can leak into our local waterways and be harmful to our environment. Fertilizers are substances added to soil or land to increase their productivity. Pesticides are substances used to kill unwanted pests. We can find fertilizers and pesticides on our farm, where the farmers are using it to help their crops grow nice. We can also find it on our golf course to help the grass grow nice and green, and same with our residential areas.
The next example of non-point source pollution is loose sediment. Now, loose sediment can be found at multiple locations within our watershed construction site here. And so as they're digging up the ground and it rains, all this sediment is getting kicked off to the side of the road. Here in the mountains, we have a tree that tumbled over during a storm and it got uprooted. Now all its roots are exposed, so I'll put a little sediment here as well. Next up, we're going to go down to the farm here. I'm just going to add some here because all the cows are grazing the farm. All the sediment is getting kicked up. Lastly, I want to discuss here, along the stream banks, all the vegetation has been removed to build the road. What's happening is a bit of erosion, and so from that erosion comes a lot of loose sediment. Alright guys, now as you see here, this is all of our non-point source pollution if you want to take a look at all this mess. So what I want to talk about now is point source pollution. Point source pollution, you know who the polluter is. There's two examples on our EnviroScape. Over here, we have a sewage treatment plant that leads to a CSO, which is a combined sewage outfall along the rivers. When it rains very hard, our household sewage and stormwater runoff blends together and gets discharged directly into the river untreated. So on a nice, really rainy day, what happens is the treatment plant gets overflowed. And as it overflows, it decides to trickle into a stream. So as you see here, so picture a real rainy day, that's sewage and stormwater runoff going together. Over here we have a factory with a pipe leading right into a drainage ditch that leads right into a stream. They're doing, with this pipe here, is polluting it with whatever toxins that come out of the factory. So the factory's byproducts are being released into this drainage ditch, eventually touching the water. Now we say point source because we can identify the source of this pollution.
This was our watershed on a nice, beautiful, sunny day. But now a big rainstorm is coming. So we're going to see how this rainstorm is going to affect our watershed and the pollution found within it.
Here are a couple things you guys can do to help alleviate the non-point source pollution issue here in New Jersey. Volunteer at community cleanups in your area, help plant trees with local community groups, always pick up after your pet, reduce your single-use plastic consumption, reuse products by maintaining and repairing when you can, and to recycle. Not only does this reduce the amount of waste sent to landfills, but helps preserve natural resources as well.
Looking at our common body of water here, this is a worst case scenario. If we take better care of our environment and are more cautious of our actions in water pollution, we can make our watersheds more healthy. All hope is not lost.